This is a representation of a simple power system. As you can see in the figure, there is a generator which is supplying three loads with the help of some transmission lines. These lines, they do indicate the transmission system or maybe distribution system. They may be single phase or they may be three phase also. And these indicate the loads. These indicate the loads. This is a representation of a generator. And if you want to add a transformer, so like that, single line diagram gives us some basic information about the configuration of the power. Now, if you carefully see, how many elements are there? These are the loads. I do have three loads. I do have one generator. I do have one transformer. I do have 1, 2, 3, and 4 transmissions. And I do have 4 transmission lines. This is the information which I have gathered from the single line. Now, you see, this is a point in electrical circuit because this one is in. What do you mean by a node in electrical circuit? It is just like a point in a circuit where 2 or more number of elements are connected. So in a similar way, see, this is a node. If we consider this one as an electrical circuit, this is a node where loads and 2 transmission lines are connected. So a node. This is also a node. This is also a node. This is also a node. In electrical circuits, we will call these points as nodes. But in power system, we call these as bus. This is bus number 1, bus number 2, bus number 3, bus number 4, bus number 5. So, to broadly define a bus, a bus is nothing but a point in power system where 2 or more elements are connected. Or if you want to write it more and more technically, the bus is the linkage of 2 or more elements in power system. It is very similar to a node in an electrical circuit. Very similar to a node in an electrical circuit. It will be, if you see a single line diagram, you say if you ever go to your power system, if you ever go to your substation, or if you ever go to an electrical place, you will always see what is the single line diagram of that particular area of the net. Even if you go to this integrated distribution camp also, how the single line diagrams will be? They will use the single line diagrams to represent the power system network in their area. So how it will be? It will be just like this. It will be just like a hierarchy system. This is the distribution line, because in a distribution line there will be only one generation station and links will be drawn down. Whereas this is a normal representation of a transmission system where you do find too many number of generators and too many number of loops which are intermingled to each other. But anyway, a single line diagram gives us a basic understanding of the power system. It won't give us too much amount of details. It won't give us the rating of the generator. It won't give us the length of the transmission and etc. Just only understanding the physical structure of your power system. And the second one is, in this single line diagram, if you carefully see, the joining points are called as are noted as buses. Those are not physical locations. It is just a point in your path where two or more elements are present. This point of bus, this concept of bus is very significant in your path. Now we will see. A bus. Now, I hope you have understood the concept of bus. So what is a bus? The bus is nothing but a physical location in your path where two or more elements are joined. So I am removing all these things. Now, let us suppose you are a distribution business. You are in R&D division of, let us suppose, CS and BDC. Or maybe you are in some branch. And they say that this is the existing single line diagram of a power system. And this is, let us suppose, NTPC. And we are supplying three districts. One is Khammam, the other one is let us suppose they will give you that this is a single line diagram which they do have, and they will represent your transmission line capacity also. They will represent the ratings of the transmission lines, they will represent the loads which are generally there at these locations, and they will represent what is the generation capability of it. What is the maximum generation which you can do at your NTPC. Now, even though the ratings will be very, very higher, but there are various constraints in transmitting the power, isn't it? Which can be transmitted from here to here. A rough formula is the active power will be V1 V2 sin delta by X, or what we call it as V1 V2 sin delta 1 minus delta 2 by X. These are magnitudes. A reactive power formula will be V1 V2 cos delta 1 minus delta 2 by X minus V2 square by X. These are the formulas. Which means that to compute the active and reactive powers of this transmission system, to compute the active and reactive powers of the transmission line, what do you need? You need the voltages, amplitude and also the angle. See, each of this one you need to have. Amplitudes and angles. And what do you do require? The reactance of the transmission line. Reactance of the transmission line is a physical thing. Once you fix up the thickness of the wire, once you know the length of this transmission line, you can easily compute what is the reactance of the transmission line. It will be in terms of some inductance, it will be in terms of the distance, and this inductance it will be in terms of thickness and area of cross section and length, etc. etc. Apart from that, an additional parameter frequency. So these will govern your voltage are going to govern, your currents are not going to govern your reactance. So reactance most of the time it is termed as a fixed one. So as an engineer, as an electrical engineer, if I am supposed to compute the power flow in the transmission line, now I am supposed to know the voltage and angle at the two ends of the transmission. Now, you are all electrical engineers, right? Now, I will ask you one basic question. Now let us suppose can I increase the, let us suppose if by some means a new area has been set up here, some industry has been set up, very large scale industry, very large scale industry. The load has shot up. The load has shot up. Now, the load has shot up means the demand has increased. Now, how to provide demand? How to provide the increased demand in this area? Can you suggest? Anyone else? He requires more amount of power now. I am assuming that I am having this capability of generating power. So what I am supposed to do? I am supposed to transmit the power, but there is a limitation on the amount of power which I can transmit, because my power is dependent on voltage and angle. So to increase the power, what should I do? Can anybody suggest me? Either I am supposed to increase the voltage level, or I am supposed to increase the angle difference between these two, or I am supposed to reduce the reactance of the transmission. Isn't it? These are the factors. So if I want to increase the loading of the transmission line, what I am supposed to do? I am supposed to vary these parameters. And on the other hand, on the converse, let's say, as an electrical engineer, suppose if you want to know what is the power flows in the transmission system, what you are supposed to do? First of all, you are supposed to compute the voltage at all the buses. Once you know the voltage at all the buses, then only you can compute what are the power flows. Once you know the power flows, then you can calculate losses. Then only you can calculate efficiency of the power flow. Isn't it? This is one thing. Why do we require to compute the voltages? This is one thing. Second thing is to understand the power flow. Now we will go to the second point now. There is some amount of power that is flowing in this transmission line, but we do have a thermal rating. Do you remember about the thermal rating of the transmission lines in your PS1? Whenever you are doing your transmission lines, you might have heard about this. Every transmission line will be having a thermal rating. Only if you exceed the thermal rating of the transmission line, then it will offer you a lower efficiency. But you can load the transmission line up to its thermal rating. So let us suppose if I have the ability to increase my generation to meet my demand, and if I have the capability of increasing the voltage, if I have the capability to increase my angle, then I can increase my loading of my transmission line, isn't it? Up to what extent I can load my transmission line? Till I get my thermal rate. Isn't it? So, for further loading of the transmission line, you are supposed to compute what is the present load, and then you are supposed to focus on expansion. Let us suppose if this line thermal rating has exceeded, then automatically what you will do? You will go on setting up some new transmission. Even for setting up new transmission line also, or even expanding our network also. In either of these cases, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to understand, you are supposed to compute what is the current status of the system. What do you mean by current status? Current power flows in the system. Then only we can go for either expansion of network, expansion of existing network, or completely formation of new network. You are supposed to compute the load flows. And what do you mean by computing load flows? It is about knowing the voltage at each and every. Then you will get a question. Sir, voltage, you can directly measure the voltage with the help of a voltmeter. So it is very easy to We can measure the voltage and we can compute the power. In practice, it will be very, very easy. But what happens is, in planning, it is a very tedious task to determine the load flow. Now, in this particular unit, we will see how load flows are computed. Why load flows is always a tedious task. That we will discuss from. So now, have you understood what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Sir, your voice is slightly breaking, sir. It's not very clear, sir.
Is my voice slightly breaking?
Yes, sir. There is some disturbance in your voice, sir. It's not so clear.
Okay. All the time or at some time?
It's some intervals only, sir. But then the thing is, we are not able to form a flow.
Okay, fine. Excuse me for this. Tomorrow I will arrange for something. Okay. There is a problem with the network, I think.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So, what we have learned so far? The first one is, so what is the things which I have learned so far now, till now? What is a single line diagram? A single line diagram is just a simple representation of the power system where we understand the physical interpretation of a power system. Generally, what we can say about single line diagram? It is a physical representation of the power. Simple physical representation of the power. And second one, what is a bus? The bus is nothing but a physical point in the power system or any point in the power system where two or more elements are interconnected. So we have learned about single line diagram, also learned about bus, and lastly, what we have learned, what is significance of load flow studies. So I will once again give a glimpse of load flow studies. Load flow studies is nothing but, if anybody asks you, what do you mean by load flow studies? It is analysis of a power system at its steady state condition or at its steady state. It is the analysis of power system at its steady state. Then somebody will ask you, what do you mean by analysis of power system? Then you can say, what you can say? It is about computing power flows in all the transmission lines of the power system. I am writing short lines only. In all the transmission lines of the power system. And from there, we can compute what are the losses in each of the transmission lines. We can compute the efficiency of the power system. This is all about your load flow studies. I hope now you have understood what do you mean by load flow studies. It is the analysis of the power system in its steady state. So what we will be doing, we will be computing the power flows of all the transmission lines, losses at each of the transmission lines, and finally the efficiency of the power system. So what is the advantage of conducting load flow studies? It is a very, very tedious task. Then why are we going for load flow studies? One thing. For expansion of existing network or for formation of new network, you don't need to understand what is the current status of the system. And load flow studies gives us the current status of the process under steady state, which means that it is not experiencing any disturbances. Assuming that the system is not experiencing any disturbances, the current status is provided by load flow studies. And this understanding of current status helps us in expanding the network or going for a new network. This is about load flow studies. Understood? Now we will see. The first topic is over today. What is the first topic? What do you mean by load flow studies and why is it necessary? That we have completed. The second one for today is about bus. Sir said that bus is so important in load flow studies. In fact, the concept of bus is used extensively in all the power systems. Be in transmission sector, even if you go to NPDCL, even if you go to SPDCL, even if they don't consider on the bus. They always consider on the term of generators and units. So now let's see what is the concept of bus. Now let's see the concept of bus. As already mentioned, bus is a point where two or more elements are connected. And bus is characterized by, you take any boy or girl, can we say about them? Okay, he'll be having some attributes, isn't it? What you call it as in, I think those who are going with English or ILTS or GS, you know very well. Attributes. Attributes is nothing but something special about anything. Let us suppose if I take a boy or a girl or an object. What can I say about this object? Okay, the object is it is having some color, it is having some size, it is having some smell, it is having some beauty or whatever. So these are called as attributes. Similarly, the bus is also having some attributes. We call them variables. Somebody may question you, what are all these voltages and currents, blah, 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 blah. Voltage and current is a term, basically, essentially used in power systems. But these are related to any physical quantity. You take load voltage, load current. Then these voltage and current are called attributes of this variables of this load. These are called as load variables. So, an electrical engineer, if somebody asks you what are the load variables in electrical engineer, the load variables are voltage and current. The load variables are current, voltage, frequency, power, blah blah blah. All these things they do come under the variables of electrical quantity. Now, in the same way, bus is also characterized by few variables. And the common variables or the widely used bus variables are voltage, and these two are considered to be standard variables for any bus. Now, आप लोगों को second year phase, I think you are used to AC networks, isn't it? Nobody is employing a DC network. All your power systems is AC, and in your second year itself you might have known. Whenever you are in AC, then defaultly all the voltage and current they are now common, isn't it? DC में They are just like real variables. AC what is the major difference? All the variables are now transformed into complex. So that's why, since power system is also an AC system, it is voltage is a complex term, power is also a complex term. So having a real part and also imaginary part, or what you call it as magnitude and an angle. Mod V at an angle of delta. This is S at an angle of alpha. These two are the variables. This is the polar format. What is the rectangular format for a complex variable? P plus J. And this is E plus J. Do you remember these terms? I think you remember a few of the terms, isn't it? You might have heard about this V, P, Q, etc. But you have not considered about these terms. But do remember, whenever you are doing AC network, the major difference between an AC network and a DC network is that all the variables now in AC network are complex variables. All the variables in DC are basically variables. Now these are complex variables, and a complex variable defaultly must be represented in exact format. Most of the electrical engineering students don't do this. Whenever if somebody asks them what do you mean by torque, then they will say some vague answer. Immediately you are supposed to ask whether it is an AC network. If it is an AC network, it will be having two powers. One is active power, the other one is reactive power. Combinedly it is called as complex. And it is represented as a triangle of alpha, P plus AC. Similarly, voltage, magnitude and angle. And it will be represented as E plus J. So then why current is not considered as a variable? These are considered to be independent variables. In 10th class itself, you might have heard about variable and constant. What is the difference between a variable and a constant? A constant has a value. A variable will be having a value which will be continuously varying, isn't it? In electrical engineering, for your revision, I am saying, engineering, all the impedances are normally considered as a constant, unless specified. Unless specified, all the impedance formats R, L, C, G, these are considered to be constant. And all this voltage, power, current, frequency, and all these, they come under variable quantity. Do remember this one. You are basically electrical. And out of all these things, see, the standard ones, if you represent it in AC, voltage, current, and power and frequency. We will neglect this frequency because most of the time it is generally not varying. So the primarily variables are voltage, current, and power. Out of these three, these two are fixed as independent variables. And current is represented as a dependent variable. Why? Because if you know V and C, then automatically I is equal to P by V. We can compute it directly. Why again going for one more step? So that's why. In electrical engineering, we treat I as a dependent variable. If we compute V and P, that will be okay for us. So starting off, dependent variables, independent variables, constant in electrical engineering. That's why in most of the power system problems, we aim at computing voltage and power every time. Even if you go for any power system problem, they will ask you what is the voltage, what is the power. Why? Because if you know if you can compute voltage and power, automatically we can compute the current. So now, okay. Similarly, a bus is characterized by two independent variables. One is voltage, the other one is current, and both are complex ones. Now, if you carefully see, this is the representation. Now the fact is, whenever we start a load flow problem, it's a load flow problem. Or I may represent it as PF and PQ, but I'll represent them as V delta and PQ. Voltage is considered in polar form, power is considered in rectangular form in most of the cases. So, out of these 4 variables, at the start, only 2 variables will be given. Load flow solution is about computing at the end of the load flow. What you are supposed to do is you are supposed to compute all variables at all the buses. If you compute all variables at all the buses, then only you can compute power flows in the transmission line. Then only you can compute losses. Then only you can compute efficiency. So load flow studies is about computing all the variables at all the buses. Now the question is, sir, why only 2 variables will be given at each of the buses? Why only 2 variables will be given? Now, this we will see now. Now understand what are the bus variables, beta? How many variables will be there for each bus? Literally speaking, there will be 2 variables. One is the voltage, the other one is the power. But if we expand them, these will resolve into 4 variables. Okay. Now we will see in detail about what are the different types of buses and what are the parameters which are given at them. Now we will see the bus. We will take some sample power system and we will try to analyze in our own way rather than reading from the textbook. We will try to learn from our own experience. Now, as already said, this is generator, and this is load, and this is load, and this is load. Now, let us suppose this is bus number 1, this is bus number 2, this is bus number 3, and each bus is characterized by mod V, delta, P, and Q, and it is also characterized by P and Q. Now, if you see, can anybody say? Sure, I will take some random guys from your class. Okay, I'll take my example only. Let us suppose if I am on the generator. Let us suppose if I am the generator. And let us suppose if one of your friends is owning the load. So if we are the load, what will we think of? How will be the mindset of a load? Out of these four parameters, I am more concerned about P and Q. I want this much amount of power, whatever may be the voltage, whatever may be the frequency. What is my job? My job is nothing but I am supposed to get this much amount of per hour, it's a power on a schedule bus. So my parameters depending only on P and Q what I am getting. So I will directly give up. Okay, I want this P, I want this amount of Q. So at load, most of the times, P and Q are specified by all the loads. They specify this is the amount of active power which I need, this is the amount of reactive power which I need. So that's why load buses are characterized by two specified variables. What are those? Those are P and Q. Now coming to this generator. Chala, we move on to the generator. Let us suppose if you own a generator, what is your concern? Your concern is not about the reactive power because nobody will be getting sufficient amount of bill for the reactive power. So that's why you will be concentrating on active power from the generator side. Because at the generator, reactive power is only a byproduct. Our major concern will be active power only. So what you will do as a generator, as a generation manager, what you will do? Reduce the amount of voltage. So the mindset of a generating station manager, they will be making the strict limitations on mod B and P. They will specify. But whereas the load person, he don't bother about the voltage. Okay, whether it is 230 or 220 or 215, whatever it may be. But what his target is, he is supposed to get, let us suppose, 100 megawatt of power. He is more concerned about getting P and Q. Whereas these times he is more concerned about providing this much amount of power because he will get revenue for the power which he provides. So maintaining of voltage is also his duty. Because if he maintains voltage only, then only power will be transferred here. If he doesn't maintain voltage, power cannot be transferred to the load. He will only ultimately will be a failure. So he tries to maintain the voltage magnitude and also generate. Now, generator, he concentrates on P and model, whereas the load he concentrates on P and. Now we will see. So buses, two different types of buses we experience. One, the buses which are connected to the generator. The other one, the buses which are connected to the load. Now we will classify the things. Now let us see. I'll take one more example. So buses are broadly classified into two types. What are they? Generator bus, short-lived. What do you mean by generator bus? The bus which is connected to your generator. So what are the parameters which are specified out of these four? They will specify P and model. The other type of bus is load bus. What are the specified variables? P and Q. These two are specified here. P and Q. Now, if you see a different type of bus, is there any generator connected to it? No. Is there any load connected to it? No. Then how should I treat it? It will be counted as a load bus only. Do you remember this point? It is counted as a load bus only. So now, what do you mean by generator bus? A generator bus is a bus to which a generator is connected. Then what do you mean by load bus? Can we take a definition of a load bus? Can we define it as a load bus? A bus where load is connected? No, because here load is not connected. So how can we modify the definition now? A load bus is a bus where generator is not connected. Simple. If a generator is connected, it is called as a generator bus. If a generator is not connected, it is called as load bus. Understood now? So now we will go with the classification of buses now. So first of all, regarding the buses, how many variables will be there in the bus? There will be 4 variables, 2 variables, but counting them as complex variables, we will count them as 4 variables. What are they? Mod V, delta, and P and Q. 2 are written in polar form, 2 are written in rectangular form. Okay. Now, how many types of buses are there? Buses classification. The first one is generator. Now, define a generator bus. How will you define a generator bus? A bus with generator is connected. It is called a generator bus. And what are the specified variables here? P and mod. What are the unspecified variables here? Q and delta are not specified here. Next one is load. How it is defined? A bus to which generator is not connected is called as load bus. So now let's see. What are the parameters which are specified here? P and Q. What are not specified? Mod V and delta. Understood now what is the classification of buses? What do you mean by bus? A bus is a physical. It is what are those? Voltage, angle, active, and reactive. And what is the classification of buses? There are 2 types of buses. One is a generator bus, the other one is a load bus. Generator bus is a bus to which generators are connected, and load bus is a bus where generator is not connected. And at each of the bus, at the start of load flow problem, only 2 variables will be specified. The other 2 we are supposed to compute by doing load flow study. So what are specified at a generator bus? P and mod V. So the load bus, P and Q. Okay. Now, load flow studies is all about obtaining the unknown variables at all the buses. Load flow studies is about determining now there is an assumption. How load flows are computed? By using numerical techniques. And while going for the numerical techniques, we generally go with an assumption that we'll start at some, in most of your numerical techniques you might have seen, we'll start with some random value and we'll finally close it after several units. So like that, even in all these numerical methods, we will start at some point. Every time we will calculate the values, again compare it with the previous iteration. If not, we will change the values again and again and again. It's a very cyclic process. Sometimes it will take 150 or 200 iterations also. Very, 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 very complex. Okay. Now, during this load flow study, to minimize the number of computations, what the engineers have done is, one of the generator buses is kept aside from load flow problems. One of the generator buses is kept aside from load flow problems. So let us suppose if G is the number of generator buses and L is the number of load buses, you will be doing for G minus 1 plus L. For only these things you will be computing all this way. You won't compute for this particular generator bus which has been taken up. And this particular swing bus or slack bus or reference bus. Do you remember these names? Swing bus, slack bus or reference bus. Swing bus, slack bus or reference bus. And why is this kept away? After doing all the load flow solutions, what you will be computing? Power loss, isn't it? And it is assumed that this generation at this bus, because this is a generator bus, isn't it? So defaultly a generator will be connected to this particular bus. Is the screen visible?
No, sir.
Drawing from another source. Are you able to see this one?
No, sir.
Are you able to see my screen at least? Are you able to see me?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I think my video is visible, sir, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
Sir,
visible,
we can
sir.
see the board, sir. We can see the board, but not the shared screen, sir.
Yeah, sure. Screen cannot be shared because my mobile doesn't respond. It is consuming too much amount of stuff. Okay, anyway, I am closing the class now. One final point. So slack bus. So what is a slack bus? One of the generator buses is kept aside, and it is assumed that this slack bus is responsible for providing the losses in the power. It is just an assumption. Okay, this slack bus or the swing bus provides the losses of your power. So if it is providing the losses of your power system, so what are the losses of the power system? You will come to know only if you complete the load flow solution. So then only you can say what is the rating of this machine. So that's fine. At this bus, normally for any bus you do have 4 variables, isn't it? At this bus, P and Q are obtained only at the end of your load flow problem. So for a slack bus, what are the unspecified variables at the start of load flow? P and Q are not specified because P and Q will be obtained only at the end of the problem. Okay, so what are the known variables? The remaining 2 will be the known variables. So now, there is a third type of bus, and it is called as a swing bus. It is a swing bus, and it is one of the generator buses kept aside. So what are specified, what are not specified? Not specified is P and Q, and the specified variables are V and N, mod V and N. So now, I'm stopping the class now. So, 1 minute time. I hope you have understood now. Today's objective was to understand. Today's objective was to understand the concept of load flow study, the need for load flow study, the concept of bus, and the different types of buses in power systems. I hope I have provided you a good information on the different types of buses. Isn't it? So that's it from my side. So coming to interview questions, coming to competitive exam questions, what they will be asking for 1 mark is what are the unknown variables at swing bus? So what are the unknown variables at swing bus? Can anybody say? Having listened to all this class, what are the unknown variables at swing bus?
P and Q, sir.
Very good. It was asked in TS Transport 2018 examination.
Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Sir, you're not audible, sir.
Is my voice audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In IAS 2017, the question was asked, how will you, sorry, an IAS interview, yeah. How will you select the swing bus? Because swing bus, in theory, what we say is nothing but swing bus is nothing but one of the generator buses. So how will it be selected? We will be having too many number of generator buses. Let us suppose if we do have 20 generator buses. How will you select the swing bus? So the answer is whatever the largest capacity you do have, because I have mentioned to you, a generator bus will be having a P and mod V given, isn't it? So after seeing all the P's of all the generators, the generator which is having the largest P value, it will be kept aside as a slack bus. Do remember these points, okay? At your UG level, it is not required, but if you go for a higher competitive examinations, this question will be important for you. So how the swing bus will be selected? Swing bus is selected among all the available generator buses, and the generator bus must be having the highest capacity of all the available generator buses. Okay, that's it. So that's it from my side. Any queries? Any queries? Since somebody has recorded the entire thing, very good.